Hello. This is TPP again. TPP again. And you guys see the moniker and the thumbnail. Welcome back to the show. New people and old people. Welcome back. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button if you have not, if you appreciate the content. Now, there's a fundamental difference between looking down on people and looking over your shoulder at people. And I think that is a distinction this country has never really wanted to have about the conversation that is happening now. But once you understand the difference, a whole lot of comfortable narratives start to fall into place. I hear people online, and I've been hearing people online for several days, weeks now, saying that Black people are the most racist people in America. And every time there is a debate over politics, policing, crime, or race relations, somebody eventually says, well, Black people hate white people too. They point to frustration. They point to suspicion. They point to the fact that some Black people are cautious around white people. And they say, see, that's racism. No, it's not. I'm not saying there can't be racist people in all races. But you're confusing distrust with hatred. You're confusing caution with superiority. And more importantly, you're confusing a survival instinct with prejudice. So I'm describing why Black people aren't showing prejudice. Or no, they're not showing racism. They can show prejudice, but not racism. So, because there's a world of difference between looking down on people and looking over your shoulder at people. That is the distinction between what white people do and what Black people do. And either one of them don't really know that that's what they're doing. Looking down on people means you believe they're less intelligent maybe than you are. It means you believe they're less moral, less deserving, or somehow less human. It means you think your race, your culture, or your background makes you naturally superior. That is what racism looks like. When you feel as though people are less important than you, less intelligent than you, less morally, less deserving, less human. That's when you're racist. That's what racism looks like. And if we're being honest, America has a long history of that kind of thinking. It has a name. We've called it white supremacy. It's the belief that one group naturally belongs above another and that everybody else is somehow deficient by comparison. Now, I'm not saying every white person believes that. I don't believe that at all. I am saying that this country has spent centuries building and protecting a hierarchy of color based on that white supremacist idea. And you still see echoes of that today. Look at the reaction to the Carmelo Anthony trial. How many times have we heard, y'all don't raise y'all kids right? Y'all don't know how to raise y'all kids. How many times have we heard that Black parents don't care about their kids? That Black families are broken? That Black communities are naturally violent? That one young Black defendant somehow represents millions and millions of Black people? One child is accused of committing a terrible act, and somehow all of us are put on trial. Suddenly, every stereotype that has ever been thrown at black people comes rushing back to the surface of white people's mouth. We all become bad parents. We all become criminals. We all become people who supposedly do not value education, discipline, or life itself. All of us seem to become that bad stereotype if you're black. That is what I mean by looking down on people. That is taking the actions of one person and using them to confirm a belief that an entire group is somehow lesser than. That is not caution. That is not pattern recognition. That is prejudice built on the assumption of superiority. Looking over your shoulder is different, entirely different. Looking over your shoulder means life has taught many black folk to be careful of white people. It means history has taught us that not every smile is genuine and not every promise is going to be kept. It means that after generation and generations of experience, black people pay attention when old stereotypes and old patterns begin to show themselves again against us. Take the way many people reacted to Jeff Metcalf's public comments. For a time, many black Americans looked at him and saw a grieving father. Most people can understand that kind of pain. Most people can sympathize with a parent who has lost a child. But when the conversation begins to shift away from grief and towards rhetoric that many people interpret as racially charged or broadly condemning, there were a lot of black folks who looked at each other and said, we see the pattern. We see where this is going. We've seen this before. And that is the point of this whole conversation. The reaction was not, we think every grieving white father is a racist. We didn't think that. The reaction was, we recognize a pattern that history has taught us to pay attention to. It was the feeling that what had looked like a shared humanity experience that Jeff Metcalf was giving us had suddenly given way to language and assumptions that felt painfully familiar. Maybe some people hear that and think it's unfair. But if communities learn from this experience like ours, if families pass down lessons about survival, and if history leaves scars, then it should not surprise anyone that people become watchful. And black people are watchful of white people because we might look up and you might sympathize for a little while and then turn on us like Jeff Metcalf turned on the black community and he showed his true color. It should not surprise anyone that people start looking over their shoulder and saying, I can't fuck with y'all. Because looking over our shoulder is not the same thing as looking down on people. Black people look over their shoulder at white people sideways. We don't look down on white people. Not the bulk of us don't. The bulk of us don't. Small percentage. Okay. But the bulk of us do look over our shoulder. Looking down on someone says, I think I'm better than you. Most black people don't think they're better than anyone. Most black people don't. Okay. Looking over our shoulder says experience has taught us to be careful. One of those thought processes, looking down on someone and looking over our shoulder, one of those processes comes from a belief in superiority. The other comes from memory. One seeks to dominate, the other seeks to survive. Anyway, I do not think these two things are the same. And I think pretending that there's just as many racist black people as there are racist white people who think, no, not racist, but who have that superiority standpoint, There's not a lot of black people who do. There's black people who do. I'm not saying they don't, but it's not the bulk. Okay? But you have to be intellectually honest. Okay? Because a lot of people, their first jerk reaction, and I've been watching the talking points, and I've been watching people on Thread and online and all that, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth, you guys need to raise your kids right. You guys don't train your kids. You guys don't do this. What do you mean, you guys? Carmelo Anthony is the last person that I found out that killed another human being. I didn't know the rest of us did that too. I didn't know all of us was going to be painted with the same brush as Carmelo Anthony. But yet and still, this is the bulk of people online. All y'all need to raise y'all kids right. All y'all need to start crying. I ain't never committed a crime in my life. I don't even know what you're talking about. So it doesn't resonate with me like that. And a lot of black people it doesn't resonate with. Okay. That was on full display. This looking down on the black culture was on full display when we got the reaction for the Carmelo Anthony vote. It's fundamentally different from looking at the world and saying, I need to pay attention because history has taught me that not every warning sign should be ignored. In fact, let me explain exactly why I believe looking down on someone and looking over your shoulder at someone are two totally different things. Let me lay it out point by point. Why I do not think what many Black Americans feel is racism at all. Okay. Number one, first, racism is rooted in the belief that another group of people is inherently inferior. At its core, racism says you're less intelligent than I am, you're less capable of raising children than I am, you're less deserving than I am because of your race. Looking down on people requires a belief in your own superiority. That is why the phrase looking down on people matters so much. It describes a hierarchy where one group believes it belongs above another. That is not the emotion I get from Black people when they talk about being cautious around white people. Secondly, what many Black people experience is not a feeling of superiority, but a feeling of vulnerability. If you're looking over your shoulder, you're not saying that someone else is beneath you. You're saying that your own experiences and the experiences of the people who came before you have taught you to be careful. Our ancestors' experiences with white people have told us to be careful and wary of you. We don't think we're superior. We just know that the feeling that some of you have can turn on a dime, just like Jeff Metcalf turned his grief on a dime into something racial and very ugly against us. We're wary of white people when they do that. And history has taught us that many people will do that same thing that Jeff Metcalf done. Caution is not the same thing as contempt. We are wary because we know that you all will turn on a dime on us. Wariness is not the same thing as hatred. I want y'all to get that. We don't hate like that. We're wary of you because you can be a Jeff Metcalf in a wolf in sheep's clothing. And all of a sudden you come out of nowhere with a rant about Black people need to raise their kids right. All y'all don't take care of your kids. All of y'all poor. And most people, specifically Black people, were like, what the fuck? Where the hell he come with that? Why would he say some shit like that? Unprovoked by people, the vast majority of Black people. People that were at your trial maybe, but unprovoked by the vast majority of us Black people. that attack came out of the blue, unprovoked to the vast majority of black people. Because the vast majority of black people was like, what the hell? We were sympathizing with you. We understand that you lost a son. We get that. But how are you going to come out and attack us? Because one person killed your son. Third, distrust is usually built on experience, not fantasy. Human beings learn from what they live through and from what they are taught by the generations before them. If a family, a neighborhood, or an entire community experiences the same patterns over and over again, black men going to jail, black men commit a crime, black men get over policed, they get over sentenced. If an entire community experiences those patterns over and over and over again, we adapt. We understand this in every other part of life. We teach our children not to touch a hot stove because somebody got burned. We teach them to look both ways before crossing the street because danger exists. Nobody calls those lessons prejudice. We call them common sense. We call them survival. So we recognize when people turn on a dime. Every time we have had the bulk of white people turn on a dime and do the Jeff Metcalf thing. You're nice one day, you turn on us the next. Where did that come from? Oh, well, that's par for the course. That's what you're going to do. That's a pattern that we recognize. Okay. It's common sense. Number 4, institutions and individuals are not the same thing. When many black people express distrust, we're often talking about the systems that have failed us or our community. Not making a declaration about every individual white person we meet. We don't never make a whole individual statement about white people that we meet. If somebody shoots my son, I'm not gonna go out and say, "Oh, you white people, blah blah blah." I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna blame him. Jeff Metcalf blamed the whole group of people, the whole entire black. You don't raise your kids right. You don't know how da 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 da. Okay. We don't make a declaration of every white person that we meet. People often hear criticism of institutions and personalize it, but those are two different conversations. Saying, I do not trust the system is not the same thing as saying, I hate every person inside that system. Because we don't. 5, communities have memories. Every group of people carries stories about what happened to them. Jewish family members remember anti-Semitism and persecution. Jewish people don't get along with Muslims. Native American people remember being forced and removed from broken treaties. Immigrant families remember discrimination and exclusion. Families who have lived through war pass those lessons down to the next generation. Nobody is surprised that people remember collective trauma. The only time memory suddenly becomes controversy is when Black Americans talk about our trauma. Oh, y'all was in slavery. That don't mean nothing. All them Jewish people persecute with them Jewish people talking about they've been persecuted by Muslims. Oh, that's so legitimate. Oh yeah, we got to protect the Jewish people. We got to protect them. But Black folks been slaves for 400 years. Oh no, y'all need to get over that. No, that ain't no trauma. You shouldn't even be affected by that. The only memory suddenly becomes controversial when it's a Black person talking about our trauma, our problem, our history. We don't have collective trauma. No, y'all ain't got collective trauma. Y'all just want to be victims. Y'all just want to be Y'all just want stuff. Y'all want people to hand y'all stuff. Y'all don't want to work for it. Y'all lazy. Y'all dumb and y'all lazy. Don't nobody say nothing about the Jewish people. When they talk about the Muslims persecuting them, they don't say nothing about that. Number 6, Trust is earned. It's not automatically granted. We understand this principle perfectly well in our personal life. If somebody lies to you repeatedly, you become skeptical of them. If somebody betrays you, you become guarded. Nobody accuses you of hatred because you become cautious after you've been hurt. Yet somehow, the Black communities develop caution after generations of discrimination and unequal treatment. And our caution and our recognition of discrimination and unequal treatment is called racism. Oh, the Black people racist against us. We have had generation and generation and generation of discrimination against us, unequal treatment against us, discrimination against us. But when we practice being wary of white people, no, you're racist. That's racist. So we're not allowed to remember that this is what is our history, our trauma from years and centuries. We're not allowed to feel that. But it's not a problem when you have Muslims or Jewish people, Israeli people. You don't have no problem when they talk about they've been persecuted. You don't have no problem about that. But it's a problem when we tell you that we still understand and we still recognize the pattern of discrimination. No, y'all ain't discriminating against. It's even. It's equal treatment. No, the fuck it ain't. We recognize that pattern. We understand it. We don't trust white people like that. Most Black people don't. Because they always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that's not racism. That's the fact that we recognize the pattern that Jeff Metcalf showed us. Jeff Metcalf reminded us that this is how y'all feel. So now we're just going to pull back and we're going to understand this is where we stand with a lot of white people. Not all white people, not all white people, not all Black people, not all Black people. You got to be mature enough to handle this conversation. Okay. Number 7. There's a profound difference between domination and self-protection. Racism has historically been used as a tool to dominate, exclude, and deny opportunity to another group. Being watchful because you do not want to be harmed is a defensive posture, not an offensive one. People seek power over other people all the time. The others seek safety for their own people. Those are not the same motivations, and they should not be treated as though there were. Okay. Most people in this country, white people specifically, want to seek power over other people. We seek safety for our own people. We're not trying to be ahead or above nobody. We're trying to just exist and do our thing. Okay. Those are not the same motivations, and it should not be treated as though they are. Finally, we also have to be honest about the differences between judging every individual and recognizing those patterns. Every person deserves to be judged on the basis of their own character and their own actions. But it's also true that people and communities recognize patterns based on lived experience. Acknowledging that pattern exists is not the same thing as believing every member of a group is identical. All white people are not the same. All Black people are not the same. Hispanic, Asian, etc., etc. Acknowledging those patterns exist is not the same thing. Okay? It's entirely possible to believe that every person deserves a fair chance, while also understanding why history has made some of us more cautious than other people. And I think that is where the entire conversation falls apart, right? Too many people hear Black Americans describe a pattern and assume we're making a judgment about every individual. We don't make a judgment about everyone. We take that person. Those are not the same things. Recognizing a pattern is not the same thing as believing every person is identical. And that is why I keep coming back to the same sentence, because I think it explains this entire debate better than anything else I could say. There is a fundamental difference between looking down on people and looking over your shoulder at people. Looking down on people says, I'm better than you. You guys don't know how to raise your kids right. Your whole community is jail bound. You're all criminals. You're all degenerates. That's all I heard online. All that. You're all black people, all black people. That's all we heard. Okay. Looking down on people says you're better than them. Looking over our shoulder says life has taught me to be careful of you white people. We're not racist against white people. We just understand what you think and how you feel. And the fact that you feel as though you're better than the black race, we feel that. That's what we're cautious of. That's why we're wary, because most of us can feel that. Most of us can tell that's how you feel. You may not be conscious of it. I'm not saying you're all conscious of it, but it's a very big portion of you guys who believe. And you know how I know this is what it is because Donald Trump never would have got away with the things that he has gotten away with if the bulk of the white community did not believe most of what he believes. The bulk of white people do not believe in some way, shape, or fashion that he's being honest and up forward. He believes what he believes about black people. Donald Trump never would have got away with this shit. All of this stuff, getting rid of the museums, getting rid of history, getting rid of books, closing Doge, firing all the people in the government, saying there's waste, fraud, and abuse. Donald Trump never would have got away with this stuff if the bulk of you white people didn't believe this stuff. That's how I know it's true. Okay. One of those thought patterns, the one that says, I'm better than you. Oh, y'all only want handouts. Y'all want to have the victim mentality. Y'all just want somebody to do something for you. That's the attitude that says you look down on people. That's the attitude right there. If you think black people just want handouts, and you think all black people are criminals, and you think all black people don't know how to raise their kids, and you think that means you're looking down on us. You're looking down, which means you think you're superior. Some of y'all need to grapple with that. Some of y'all ain't grappled with that, but some of y'all know it, right? And we know you know it. But our reaction, our defensive reaction, doesn't mean that we're racist. It just means we're defensive on what you're talking about and what you're feeling and what you're doing. It's about survival. We have to know the people that hate us. We have to know that you hate us. We know that. So we react accordingly. Now the obvious question becomes, if our caution is not racism, where did our caution come from? The truth is that black people did not wake up one morning and collectively decide to distrust white America. That distrust was built over generations. It was built through slavery, segregation, lynchings, exclusion from housing and education, unequal treatment under the law, and countless everyday experiences that never make it onto the history book. Did y'all hear that? Unequal treatment under the law? Even with the Civil Rights Act that happened in 1965, even the years I was born, we still had unequal treatment, even under the law. And most of y'all don't even understand or grapple with that. We remember that. We remember the separate water fountain. We remember all of that. Okay. Unequal treatment under the law. It was built through stories. We remember all of this stuff because it was built through stories passed down from grandparents to parents and from parents to children. It was built because people learned, often the hard way, that we just couldn't have blind trust with white people. Jeff Metcalf proved that. We thought he was a grieving father, and he kept saying all throughout the trial, don't make it about race, don't make it about race, don't make it about race. But the minute he was able to talk about race, he went full white hat. Full white hat. Full. And before anybody says, well, all of that happened a long time ago, the 1960s and all that happened a long time ago, let me ask you something. Because people keep saying, "Oh, that don't happen now." They signed. Because I was listening to a panel, and this one dude got on. His name was Powdered something. I can't remember what it was. Powdered something, and he got on there and said, "Oh, we have equal treatment now. You guys don't need the Civil Rights Act. Y'all don't need none of that. We got equal treatment now. Everybody's equal." Did you watch what happened just last night with that goofy fucker Hofkit at that 250 celebration, who embarrassed himself and the world with the shit that he did? Did you watch what happened just last night? Here we are in 2026. A grown-ass, trash-ass man standing in front of cameras after one of the biggest moments of his professional career. His fucking career, the dumb fuck. His fucking career. One of the biggest moments when the world and everybody is looking at this dumb fuck, decides that one of the things he wants the world to hear is an old insult aimed at Michelle Obama, the first lady of our country, the first black lady of our country. Make that shit make sense. And he never would have said it if it wasn't the bulk of white people who believe what the fuck he's doing and what the fuck he said. He should be immediately sidelined for that fucking behavior. But is he sidelined today? Has he been sidelined? Or is some of y'all cheering on that racist trope that he has against Michelle Obama? Are you saying, "Oh yeah, we're giving it to the left. Oh yeah, we're giving it to Obama. Yeah. Or did you get embarrassed and you shamed the United States because that was telegraphed all over the world? Did you sit there and want to be shamed for what this man did? Because he didn't have no shame. He didn't want to have a debate about her politics. He didn't have a disagreement with her ideas and wanted to talk to her about them. Not criticism for a policy or anything else. Instead, this piece of shit reaches for one of the oldest and ugliest stereotypes that has been directed at black women in this country and shouts out, "Michelle Obama's a man. He's trash and will go down in the history books as such. And I hope he suffers for it because it's beneath him. Just like if somebody called Melania a whore, that would be beneath them. Plenty of people believe that she's a whore, but no one worth their salt would say it when they're in the spotlight. And the shine should be on them instead of what may be the end of a mediocre career at best. But this is what this person decided to say. Let's see if you white people will cancel this piece of trash for doing that on the world stage and embarrassing all. You should see those foreign chit chat, those foreign chats and TikToks. They say America done went to hell in a handbasket. Trash, because you allowed that trash to say that. And I believe the bulk of you white people believe that shit, or you think it's funny because this person still has their job. But I digress. Let's stop and think about that. Michelle Obama is a Princeton graduate. She earned a law degree from Harvard. She built a successful career long before she ever entered the White House. She served as First Lady with intelligence, discipline, and grace while raising a family under a level of public scrutiny that very few people could even try. Whether you agree with her politics or not, her accomplishments are not. They're undeniable. And yet, for years, one of the most common attacks directed at her has not been about her intelligence or her record. It has been an attempt to strip away her femininity, her dignity, and ultimately her humanity. It fits into a much older pattern in this country where successful black women are caricatured, mocked, and treated as though they somehow fall outside the boundaries of what society considers acceptable. And I don't see not a damn person sitting there condemning her that's in the public eye. couple people have come out and said that this is some trash that this person did. But does this person get canceled? Does this person suffer consequences for what he did? Or is it okay? Some people find it's okay. Okay. Now I want to be very careful because this matters. I'm not saying that one ignorant comment represents every white American. That's not what I'm saying. Just like what Carmelo Anthony did shouldn't be represented as the collective black people. It doesn't. In fact, one of the points I have been making throughout this conversation is that individuals should be judged by their own actions, not by assumptions about the group they belong to. I'm not saying that every person who disagrees with Michelle Obama is motivated by race. That's not what I said. That would be unfair, and it would undermine the point I'm making or trying to make. The point I'm making is much simpler than that. People always ask, why are black people so wary? Why are they so cautious? Why do they seem so skeptical about white people? Well, maybe it's because moments like this keep happening to black folk. Maybe it's because stereotypes that many people assume died decades ago keep showing up in public life, on social media, loud and proud and 4K, and nobody says anything. Maybe it's because every generation gets reminded that some of the old ways of thinking, that racist old way of thinking, never really disappears. Black folk don't keep bringing race up. This is a white person problem. A white person started segregation. A white person needs to stop segregation. A white person needs to stop racism. White people need to stop racism. It's not black people who are racist, who are keeping racism going. It's white people who are keeping that. As long as you have that superior attitude, as long as you think, oh, y'all just want handouts, y'all just victims, y'all just don't know how to raise your kid. As long as you have that attitude, this is going to continue. Okay. Maybe it's because every generation feels the same, wants to do the same. They simply found bigger microphones on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. And when black Americans see something like what he did last night, we think to ourselves, here we go again. They just can't keep us out their mouth. They just can't leave us alone. It's always talking about us in one way, shape, or form. We don't never get on those world stages and say nothing crazy about X, Y, and Z. But they'll sure get on there and attack Michelle Obama. Out of all the pieces of trash that are in politics, out of all the pieces of trash that are in politics, you attack the one person that ain't even in politics and ain't never put a hair out of place with nobody. You decide you're going to pick the one person out of all the trash that's in politics, in Congress, in the White House, in the cabinet, the one person that ain't even there. And you decide you're going to get on the world stage and then embarrass all of us all across the world. Black folk and white folk. Mexicans, Indian, you embarrassed all of us. This piece of trash embarrassed all of us. So, but this reaction is not rooted in the belief that we are better than anybody else. We don't believe we're better than anybody else. It's not rooted in hatred. It's rooted in pattern recognition. It's rooted in the understanding that we have seen these kind of attacks before. We know where they come from. They come from racism. They come from racial ideas, racial issues. That's where they come from. And you guys, most white people, not most white people, a lot of white people have these same ideas still. Not the one about Michelle, but similar ones. Y'all start all the crime. Y'all only want handouts. Y'all the victim. That's a racist trope. Okay. We know where they come from, and we know what they have historically been used to justify. The pattern that we recognize is not racism. It's memory. It's experience. That's a community recognizing a familiar pattern and deciding not to pretend that it doesn't exist anymore. We just stop pretending that it's not racism. That's all. When black people react to you all, it's us saying we recognize that you're a racist person. That maybe you haven't faced the racism that you have. Maybe you haven't, but we recognize the racism. Okay. Now, that does not mean every white person is dangerous. Of course not. It does not mean every interaction is hostile. It does not mean there are not millions of decent, honest, compassionate white Americans who reject racism wholeheartedly. There are. And many of them stood beside black Americans during some of the darkest chapters of this country. But acknowledging that fact does not erase the other fact. Communities develop memories just like individuals do. If you touch a hot stove once, you learn not to touch it again. If a family has experienced betrayal generation after generation after generation, they do not simply erase that memory because somebody tells them they should be over it by now. No, y'all need to get over it. Racism is over. No. Until white people get rid of racism, racism is still here. That's not hatred that we feel. That's not how that's how human beings survive. I think what bothers some people is that they hear black Americans talk about being cautious and wary of white people, and they assume that caution is directed at them personally. They hear someone say, I don't trust the system, I don't trust white people, and they hear, I don't trust you specifically. Those are not always the same thing. Many black people are not expressing hatred toward individual white people. They're expressing a lack of faith in institutions and patterns of behavior that have repeatedly failed us. Jeff Metcalf is one. The dude, what he did, that whole tick, I don't even know his name, the piece of trash that said we said last night. Okay. And I think that is the distinction people keep missing. Recognizing your pattern is not the same thing as condemning every individual. Seeing the same stereotypes repeated over and over again is not the same thing as believing every person who shares that same skin color thinks the same way. I'm not saying that. But Muhammad Ali said it best. If there's 10,000 snakes coming down the aisle and 1,000 of them are not racist, that means the bulk of them are racist. Should I shut the door, or should I leave the door open for those 1,000 that ain't racist? Or should I shut the door and just keep them all out? Okay. Seeing the same stereotypes repeated over and over again is not the same thing as believing every person believes that. One judgment is about humanity. The other is an observation about experience. That's why I keep saying there's a difference between looking down on someone and looking over your shoulder at someone. Looking down on people says, I'm better than you. Looking over your shoulder says, I have seen this before. There's another part of this conversation that rarely gets discussed, and then I'll be done. Trust is not something you are entitled to simply because you exist and you're white. Trust is something that is earned over time. Every healthy relationship, whether it's between two people or between citizens and institutions, is built on the idea that actions matter more than words. If somebody has been lied to repeatedly, they become skeptical. If somebody has been mistreated repeatedly, they become cautious. We understand this perfectly, well into our personal lives. If a friend betrays us, we do not immediately trust them again. If a spouse lies over and over again, we become guarded. Nobody says you're wrong for remembering what happened to you. In fact, we would probably tell that person that they're being wise. So why is it so difficult to understand when we as black people say we don't trust, or you white people, you have had a pattern of betraying us. So we're wary of you. We're not racist of you. We're just wary of you. Why is it difficult for you to understand this is how we feel? It's not hatred, it's wariness. I think some people want the comfort of believing that history ended the moment the laws changed on 1965. They wanted to believe that because segregation was illegal, its effects disappeared automatically. Sign a law saying ain't no more segregation, then it's over. No, it wasn't over. They want to believe that because the civil rights movement succeeded, that wounds, the wounds don't heal themselves. The wounds don't heal themselves. But history does not work that way. Laws can change overnight. Look at what Donald Trump is putting into place. Look at what they did with all the civil rights legislation when they overturned all that from the Supreme Court. Look how fast the southern states decided they were going to eliminate all the black folk down there. That's why we don't trust y'all like that. We're wary of you like that. I think trust will take generations to get. I also think, and it's only been 1965, it's only been since the years I've been born. I also think some people hear black frustration and immediately assume it's directed at every white person that they meet. It's not. But frustration with the history, frustration with institutions, frustration with repeated patterns of deceit is not the same thing as believing an entire race is inferior. Those are fundamentally different ideas. And a lot of you, I can hear a lot of you saying, we don't think you're inferior. Yes, a lot of you do, because you think white is the default. As long as you think white is the default, you think other races are inferior. As long as you think white is the default, you think other races are inferior. And let me be clear about this one thing. I'm not saying black people are incapable of prejudice. Every human being is capable of making unfair assumptions about another person. What I'm saying is that we should not confuse prejudice, which can exist in any individual, with the kind of systematic superiority-based ideology that has historically defined racism in America. Nobody who doesn't think that they're superior or in a superior race would get on a national stage and do what that goofy motherfucker did last night. He would not have done it if he didn't think he was going to get the protection for the complexion. The complexion for the protection, however that goes. He never would have did it. Okay? He never would have did it. They're not the same thing. And pretending that looking over your shoulder and looking down on someone is the same thing. It's not the same thing. That's not racism from black people. It's us being wary of you. If you want to have a real honest conversation. I think that is where this accusation of reverse racism really comes from. Some people see black Americans who are skeptical, who are cautious, who are politically alert, and who refuse to give institutions the benefit of a doubt. They interpret that as hatred. They interpret us having confidence in ourselves and black pride is hatred. I don't see, that's not hatred from us. I see people whose history has taught us to pay attention to you. I see grandparents who warn their children to be careful about you. I see parents who had difficult conversations with their sons and daughters because they knew the world would not always see them fairly. I see families that have stories of discrimination, exclusion, humiliation that never made the evening news but shaped the way we move through the world. History leaves a mark. History leaves habits, scars, and maybe that's the conversation America is not ready to have. You ain't ready to have it. If you don't see what I'm talking about, or it just goes beyond you, then you're not ready for this conversation. Because if we admit that black people are not simply angry or irrational, then we also have to admit that history leaves a scar. We have to admit that generations of discrimination and injustice created habits of mind that do not disappear because we wish them to. We have to admit that trust, once broken, cannot be restored by demanding that people forget what happened. That's what y'all want us to do. Y'all want us to forget about slavery. You want us to throw the history books away, the museum exhibits away, throw Obama away, throw Michelle away. You want us to throw all that shit away and say, oh no, we even now, y'all. Everything is fine now, y'all. And then we have a motherfucker who gets on the stage and do the bullshit that he did last night. That idiot did last night. The only way trust can be restored is that it has to be proven over time. And the future will be different from the past. That the future is promised to be different from the past. So no, I don't think what many people feel is racism. I think it's wariness. I know it's wariness. We don't want to hate nobody. But the world sure as hell hates us. The world sure as hell hates us because they put us on the bottom rung. Oh, you guys on the bottom rung. You guys are the criminals. All of y'all this. All of y'all victims. All of y'all victim mentality. All of that. Every race, every demographic, every ethnicity looks down on black people, and black people ain't never did nothing or nothing to any of you people. Historically, we've done nothing to you. And this makes people uncomfortable. Perhaps the better question right now is, why are black people so distrustful too? Perhaps the better question, what happened in this country that made people distrust? So supposedly so many reasonable white people, because there's a difference between looking down on people and looking over your shoulder. It just is what it is. One comes from believing you're better than someone else. And if you believe white is the default, you believe you're better than black people. The other one, the one looking over his shoulder, comes from remembering what happened the last time you let your guard down. And then somebody like this goofy motherfucker does what he does last night to our first lady, Michelle Obama. One comes from superiority, a thought of superiority. The other comes from experience. One seeks to dominate. The other seeks to survive. So the next time somebody says that black people are the real racists, I hope they stop and think about what they're actually saying. Are you saying people who believe they're better than somebody else? Or are you saying people whose history has taught them to be careful about you and what you do as a white person? Because there's a difference between looking down and looking over the shoulder. Okay? And if we cannot tell the difference between these two things, then maybe we have not really been trying to understand black Americans at all. Maybe we've simply been trying to avoid asking why so many people feel they have to keep looking over their shoulder in the first place. Why black people are always angry. Why black people always seem to be hostile. No, we're not hostile. We just have to always be on defense mode when it comes about being around white people when shit like this, like last night, happens. Okay. The real question is what happened in this country and what is still happening in this country that makes the distrust feel reasonable to so many black people, because people are not born wary. We're not born wary. Communities do not share, or they don't carry generational memories for no reason. People do not spend generations looking over their shoulder unless life has taught them that they have to. That is not about believing somebody else is beneath you. We don't believe anybody is beneath you. We believe we're all equal. But other people, other races, other ethnicities seem to think they're better than we are. That is not, we do not believe somebody else is beneath us. We do not believe our race is superior. That's not about hatred. That's about history, about memory, about experience. And after everything this country has put black Americans through, maybe the real surprise is not that some people are cautious. Maybe the real surprise is that so many still choose to hope and believe that tomorrow can be a better day. Because I hope and believe tomorrow can be a better day. Because there's a difference between looking down on people and looking over your shoulder. And if you understand that difference, then you understand why this conversation was never really about racism. Never really about racism. It was always about wariness. That's not racism. That's wariness. So if you like my content and you like my commentary, please leave a like, a share, and subscribe. And I appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow with content, probably tomorrow morning. I don't know when, but please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you guys. Definitely appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Thank you.